Good evening, and welcome to tonight's episode of the Westmarch Workshop, episode 70, Going Solo. As many of you know, last week was Lieutenant Lunatic's final episode. I will give you a little bit of a pre-forewarning. I was supposed to have a special guest for tonight, but there was a last-minute cancellation, and they weren't able to make it. So it is just me for right now. But we still have a lot of things that we can go through and talk about. BlizzCon is still coming up. There's some stuff going on with the pre-sale of the Blizzard store. We still have some speculation about what we might find at BlizzCon, some tinfoil hat theories going forward, and a lot of discussions within the communities. Particularly this past week, there's been a really big instance against botting and using any type of exploits. But yeah. Let's go ahead and get into the show itself.
And just like when the mighty Tyrael fell from the sky, and no one knew what it was, until they went and found the broken sword in the bottom of the thingamajig, because I don't know lore. I remember.
It was a good shot. It was a good shot. I enjoyed it. I liked it.
Yeah, boy, what's up?
What's going on? So, yeah, it was. You were all trolled. You were all trolled. For those that are listening to this on YouTube or iTunes, I did a little bit of a pre-show. I had the whole overlay set up so you just saw myself. The other side of it was all blocked out and everything. But I am excited to go through and introduce my new co-host, Leviathan. Why don't you go and tell us about yourself?
So I just got Diablo 3 last week, and I saw Westmarch Workshop. I saw Westmarch was a thing in the game, and I was like, wow, this place is cool, man. So I Googled it, and I found some cheats. And I was like, man, my game's going to be so sweet now. Let me Paragon 80 bill, easy, and head to the auction house, get all my items. It's going to be so much fun. But then there was also this podcast, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I'll listen. That seems like it's interesting. People talk about this game. I play this game. Why not? And then I listened to the latest episode, and they were like, oh, man, one of our co-hosts is leaving. So I was like, what? I should do that. If these guys can do it, I can do it. And so here I am.
Mm-hmm. True enough, and you probably know about as much lore as Lunatic did.
It's a like-for-like swap, as we like to say at work.
We always need that one person to come in and do and it still works because Lunatic's lore corner, and now it can be Leviathan's lore corner.
We don't even lose alliteration points.
I know, or it could even be like the Leviathan's lore library, Leviathan's lore lecture.
Ooh.
There you go.
The more L's, the better.
Exactly.
I'm trying to figure out what to do with this sword now. It's kind of awkward. For those who are not watching live, I channeled my inner Tyrael with the sword as well, Eldruin, that I have a little replica of, and now I'm awkwardly putting it in places that it shouldn't go. You can use your imagination from there.
Oh, isn't that pleasant? So yeah, yeah, definitely just a big thank you. Obviously, Leviathan, you've had some stuff that you had to take care of in your personal life that caused you to leave the show originally. But we've had you on a couple times. You've always been here in chat, and it's one of those ones where, we have always worked well together, known you forever, and it was just awesome that you considered actually coming back on the show full time. So definitely thank you. Thank you very much. Man. Good to have you back.
Likewise, dude.
You back. And so now, also the fact that he's back on the show does show that it is in fact not me that pushes people out of the show. I am not difficult to work with, or at least I hope so.
Diva 9-Ball?
There we go, Diva 9-Ball.
9-Ball at one point kept asking me to remove all the red M&Ms from the bowl, and I just got tired of it. I couldn't take it anymore.
And then I also wanted a live snake in my dressing room.
I had to go and wrangle all these snakes every week. It was beginning to I was losing fingers. It was a bit much.
Mm-hmm. Because it
But
had to, because I would eat the snake, so then the next day I would have to have another live snake to be there.
it was as if I was praying to some deity.
Yeah,
And
some snake deity.
indeed. But
Yeah.
in all seriousness, first of all, thank you for having me back. It was like I didn't really get the chance to mention on the show, but mentioned after in various other media outlets and whatnot. It was a difficult choice to leave back then, just because we had such a good thing going. And life does take its twists and turns, like we were kind of talking about before we got on here. Everything kind of happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a really good summer just in terms of getting everything back into place, and all thanks and praise to Lieutenant Lunatic, who I think did a phenomenal job while
Oh,
he
of
was
course.
here. So it's awesome that the opportunity opened back up, but of course, sad to see another dedicated player head off to different shores.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things that real life always has a it's I guess I should phrase that differently. It's real life is always going to take priority over everything, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's just one of those you just can't fit everything that you want in, and you have to cut some of the you know some of the less important things out of your life in order to go and do it. I know that's something that was like a huge decision for like even a fellow BlizzPro member Twiz. He just recently reinstated TwizCast, which was like that was like one of his children. That was like one of his babies that he had
I
been
was just
running
gonna
for
say
so
his
long.
baby, yeah.
Yeah, and but he had to give it up for what that was almost 2 years, a year and 6 months, something along those lines. It was he had to do it. He didn't have the time with which to do it. His personal life was suffering. The people around him were suffering from how much time he was putting into that, and so he just had to cut it off. But he's now gotten things back in order, and so he's going back to doing the show, and it's just something that it's all fluid as it goes on.
Truly it is. Truly it is.
Hmm.
And time also offers different perspectives too, because now, the Twizcast of recent days is similar but different to the Twizcast of old. And I feel
Hmm.
like we'll probably realize some of the same things as the workshop trundles on now too. That, we might get back some of the charisma and chemistry that we had previously, but also just from being away, like I might have different ideas or different ways of presenting things or facilitating conversation or something. So it could be even
Hmm.
better than it previously was. Who
Of
knows?
course, of course. Forever upwards. But yeah, how has your week in gaming been?
And so what a week to be returning, because god damn it, it was a rough time in Diablo land in Sanctuary for myself.
this
And you,
this is a great story. After you tell it, I just have to add on what happened afterwards.
all right. So, one of the things back in the day I used to kind of keep in the back of my head as I played the game, I was like, I really always want to have a cool story to tell on Wednesdays. And I would actually kind of be hesitant almost to push characters before Wednesday hit, because I didn't want my story to be, hey, so, I was just hanging out and doing stuff and then I died and blah, blah. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, this guy sucks. Doesn't even play the game. He doesn't even know how to keep his characters alive. But not only am I telling you a tale of woe tonight about the death of a character, I'm hitting you back to back. Two times this past weekend, I just decided I didn't know how to play Barb anymore. So, as most of you probably remember from, like Nineball mentioned, some of my guest appearances on the Westmarch Workshop earlier this season, I was rolling some Barb stuff and having a lot of fun with it, just because it is, one of the power picks this season. Even though it starts to continually get more and more pushed out by the gosh darn monk. And so I was enjoying just doing tons of hammering, not the kind of hammering I thought I would be doing originally, but Hoda smashing things. And groups are, of course, the best way to gain Paragon levels pretty much throughout the entire season. So it's really, now that we're in the true mid-season, it's the thing to do. You get a group together, you go to the highest GR that you can handle comfortably while still being speedy, and kill everything. And
Hmm.
that's what you do. And so we're going ahead and trying to get some groups together. We had some healing monks that were coming back into the game, some that had already been around and were creating monks explicitly for this purpose of just having more of them available to create groups more often. And so Friday night, I take my super well geared, like almost ancients everywhere, barb, and we're going into our very first Greater Rift that we put together for the night, GR60. Happen to get into this one room where the monsters kind of jump on you instantly, and we're like, okay, that was an interesting wake up call. All right, we're ready. Got the group together. It's all four of us. 3 days. JPT, who of course is a writer for Blizz Pro
Hmm.
still, does some great stuff on the website. He actually popped back on, and I hadn't seen him in months. So it was like this great reunion. Lala was there as well, and I hadn't played with her in forever because her mom was visiting and whatnot. So it was just awesome to get everyone together. We get to our first elite pack, kill it all. They throw out an arcane orb that kind of just sticks around. Sometimes if they throw it out and it's been settled down,
Yeah,
even though you kill the.
yeah, like it normally it's like if it hasn't started yet, it will wink out if you kill the mob, but there's always like that little point there if it actually procs or whatever that it stays up.
Exactly. So it was one of those instances where we killed the threat, but they still had that one orb spinning, and we were on stairs. And stairs always have this weird kind of elevation geography to them. Like the orb will spin, but sometimes you're above it, sometimes you're
Hmm.
below it. Like it's hard detection to kind of figure out.
Hmm.
Well, apparently my brain just couldn't figure it out at all. So I procced once, and then I was kind of just like standing there, like stunned that I was procced, but decided I didn't need to move. And then the group just kept going, and I
Uh-huh.
charged, but my charge didn't go anywhere. It did like furious charge, and I was still just on top of this thing spinning. And yeah, just lost it that way. So this is the stupidest death, and I really like
It
was
was,
just scratching my head after. Like I don't know how that happened really.
it was the deer in headlights scenario.
Yeah, I was just that dumbfounded
Hmm.
by how this could possibly be happening to me. It was like that song was in the back of my head, like, how could this happen to Steve? And it was
I
bad.
I have that happen to me so much. Like when I do proc, all of a sudden I'm just hitting all of my buttons. I'm not like actually, if it's one of those ones where it's like been building up and I've got all the adrenaline going, I just start hitting random buttons. It's just like I
Hmm.
did not mean to falling sword there, or I meant to use smoke screen instead of shadow power. You know.
It's just over and over, making every mistake that you could continue to make.
Yep.
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 So that happens, I yell out, we're on TeamSpeak. I was just like, no, what? No, how? And just, storm off. Log off, log back on a few hours later, get the next barb up to 70, see what kind of backup stuff I've got. And it's not a bad set of backups because I hadn't died in such a long time. So I actually was stockpiling a lot of IK gear, similar gavels of judgment and whatnot. So I'm like, all right, cool, we're back. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing. And then wake up on Saturday and, I'm like, all right, let's get back to it, get some pools of reflection up. And then literally the second Greater Rift that we put together in our groups, just going to do GR60 again, kind of the same formula. Get back in there, get the Paragon going. Get to Perdition as the Rift Guardian. He throws down his hammer slammer attack. It's hammers on hammers, funny enough. And he hits me. I got one shot, and I was pretty sure I was on the what's the monk skill that they put the floor down and whatnot? Impenetrable
Inner
fortress,
sanctuary.
inner sanctuary. There it is. Pretty sure I was standing on that, proc through it. I'm like, all right, whatever. I think it was just like a weird thing. It surely should not happen again. And so I'm just standing there tanking him. He throws it down on me, and I just die. And at that point, like I didn't even have reactions left because I used them all up the night before. So I was just like, okay, I'm done
Yep.
now.
And this all happened the day after, or like I guess the evening and the morning after we talked about you coming back on the show.
Yep, just the
Yeah.
curse of the show.
it was
Damn
just
you,
it
Nightball.
was just like one of those ones. Is like when I went through it and I talked with you on Saturday. It was just kind of like, oh, you died twice. You still want to be on the show? Still okay? uh,
I was like questioning like my Diablo future. I'm like, well, I agreed to the show. Now I have to keep playing. But man, like this is so disheartening. I have no gear. Like, what do
hmm
I do?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that kind of killed season three for me is you lost your character and then you lost all your backup gear like back to back, and it was just like having to almost kind of like having to start all over. You at least, I mean, you're not completely over because you still have your Crusader and you still
Hmm.
have a decently geared monk, I believe.
Yep, yep. Because I'm
Yeah.
starting to work on those since everything was
Hmm.
so set previously.
Yeah, and so, excuse me, it's one of those. At that point, it just like for me, it was kind of like done because I didn't have anything else. So I was having to completely rebuild everything. Had garbage weapons, no shards, barely put together like Natalia's set, and at the time it was really gear heavy. It was just like But and I definitely understand about how that can kill your motivation going in to try and finish off the season.
Um, I mean, it's cool because it's almost like a mid-season reset. So
Hmm.
it's cool in that sense because now it's like, all right, I get to do the gear chase thing again. But at the same time, it's like I kind of just want to play the established way I was planning to play this week. You set your goals based on what you have. You never
Hmm.
really factor in a loss. So
Yeah.
whenever it happens, it totally throws kind of your entire game plan off whack.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and Nevik is in chat stating that it is mostly his fault. In fact, he's claiming full fault, which is great because I asked him to play with me multiple occasions. I think both times actually he didn't want to play, and both times I died. So again, more evidence. I believe all these things statistically are significant that it's Nine Ball's fault and Nevik's fault, but certainly not my fault.
And I will just go to my tried and true defense. Hashtag blame Archon.
Of course, we cannot forget the tried and true.
Nope.
That is the method of when everything else fails, just blame Archon.
Yeah, when everything fails, just blame Archon. Who
And how
who
was your week in gaming? Hopefully not nearly as eventful, at least in the negative.
Definitely not nearly as eventful as that. I did just want to mention if anybody is still wanting to catch up on Archon, he just launched a new website. It was Overwatch Bros,
That's right.
and it's him and his two brothers are going and starting basically a what you call it, a podcast and a website devoted strictly to Overwatch. So you just go through, do a real quick search for that Overwatch Bros. You'll be able to find them and see what Archon has been up to, in addition to being on Twizzcast Monday evenings.
That's right. He's stepping his presence back up, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, that he is. As far as my weekend gaming goes, not too much to go and talk about. I know we were gaming together a little bit this past week, just going and trying to run some grifts. I got my fourth gym to 50. I have another gym that's sitting at 40 right now, and then I'll have to level up another one so that way I get my six gyms to 50 for my second conquest, so I can complete what is that? Champion, Conqueror, to complete Conqueror, and then move on to Guardian.
Yeah,
Uh,
that sounds right.
Yep, and then the Witch Doctor is coming together. Helltooth is set. I have a Suwong. Still need to make it ancient. I have a Focus and Restraint now, so it's getting together. It's getting together. I'm getting prepped. I just actually have to go and enchant all of his gear, get the Witch Doctor's gems all set and ready to go, and get an actual ancient weapon, and then I can start going and pushing.
Nice.
Yep,
Exciting times, man. Starting to branch off back into what was it? Season
two.
three, two.
Yep. Season two is when I went through and wanted to try out the Witch Doctor, and that's was one thing that I know I would just love because I wanted to play the Jade Witch Doctor, and then now obviously Jade doesn't really stack up compared to anything else, and they want to make improvements to it in patch 2.4. Um, but it's like one of those ones that just in season two it called to me because I wanted the Wormwood. That
Mm-hmm.
weapon just looked so awesome, its effect, and now there's actually some like Torminate like speed farm builds, specifically just using the wormwood, going through in locust form, like getting your damage up so high that just kills everything. Um, as you just kind of like run on by. But yeah, get there one day. Get there one day. But it's just like I hope that they don't buff Jade too much because I do want to play the melee demon hunter during season four. But I guess I'll have to also level up a witch doctor too, just because.
It's gonna be a return to classics for you, really, next season. It sounds like.
Yeah, it really will. I'll be able to go through and just like I'll have to get like some pseudo melee marauders build, so I'll be throwing out traps and going up and hitting things, so it's like playing an assassin all over again.
Oh man. I think that's part of what I'm excited for because I've never been on the front line of the whole we need melee DH in the game, but I am excited because I feel like it will be, there's always been that feeling that the Demon Hunter is kind of the assassin and the Amazon combined from D2. But the assassin aspect of it hasn't really had its chance to shine. They've been trying to make traps feel a little bit better with that
Hmm.
one-handed crossbow they threw in and
Hmm.
kind of the improvements to was it the echoing blast rune on that one trap. But I think next season could be the season.
Yeah, it could be. We'll have to see. That is when they did like Marauders for the sentries, but yeah, like you were saying, all the other traps are just non-functional. But they kind of split the assassin into the monk and the demon hunter. You get almost everything there because you have your generators and spenders, just like you had the generators and spenders for the assassin. You have to build up your charges of what was it, Dragon Talon and like Phoenix Strike, and then you could Dragon Wing to teleport across the map and unleash it all.
Oh, yes, yes. I will admit to you freely that Assassin and Druid were two classes I actually didn't play at all. Even though I loved, I almost called it Reaper of Souls, LOD, Lord
Hmm.
of Destruction, but I actually never dived into either of the expansion classes, funny enough.
Oh yeah, the assassin wasn't one until I mean like many years later that I even tried playing. I want to say like 2010 was probably the first time that I actually picked up and tried playing an assassin.
Hmm.
Before then, it was really just I played a hell of a lot of Necromancer, a little bit of Hammerden. I messed around with some elemental druids. I had a barbarian. Did not like it, um, unfortunately. That it was I don't know. I just did not like the barb. But then I always spent time trying to find the whirlwind, the to try and what was it, Fury? Builded the Fury rune word for the assassin, so that way I could whirlwind on the assassin.
So you didn't want a barb, but you
Yeah,
kind of wanted to barb, is what you're telling me.
yeah, yeah, pretty much. Well, it's because on the assassin, it's just like you could, you had the whirlwind that you could go through and kill things, and then when you got to a boss, you still had dragon kick maxed out, so you would be able to go and kill things with crushing blow. Where
Right
where
on.
whirlwind had like practically no proc chance of actually hitting crushing blow. I don't
And you
even.
know,
I'm trying to remember. I don't even think that it could proc crushing blow. And
I
that was
guess
one.
that it probably wouldn't because that'd be so overpowered, right? So many
Yeah.
hits. It's kind of funny though, because when you mention a build similar, like a build like that, I instantly think, oh, Nat's strafe, right? Like
Hmm.
that's basically it. You're whirlwinding with your strafe, and then your Rain of Vengeance is kind of your dragon kick, if you will.
Somewhat, kind of. Um. Yeah.
That's too funny.
Yeah. And then I also I played Warhammer today and got my ass kicked, so we won't talk about that one. But moving into actual news itself, of course, BlizzCon, 2 weeks away.
Get hype.
I will be seeing you there.
I know
I
we're
think I
actually both going this year.
yes. Hope knock on wood.
Knock on wood. Yeah, I hope I didn't just jinx the hell out of it.
Yeah, because I think it was around this time of the year. Well, no, this time of the year I was in the hospital, um, and you were
That's right.
being told that you couldn't make it. So it was. We've made it past that point.
Right. We're practically halfway there.
Exactly,
Living
and
on a prayer.
living on a prayer indeed. Um, but we, there's not really anything too much new to talk about BlizzCon for Diablo. It is what it is. We have the single panel, and we have like uh, open to close access to a group of the developers at the Slaughtered Cafe, in addition to anyone else that might just be wandering around the convention floor. But there'll always be a set of developers to talk to, question, and even just play around with at the Slaughtered Cafe.
hmm
Um,
And I wanted to get my voice on the record for this specific topic because we kind of
Preach it.
talked about it on our phone call on Saturday,
Hmm.
but you guys covered the majority of many of my thoughts last week, so I won't go too long here. But I think it's an intriguing spot to be in as a rabid fan of Diablo because obviously we're not feeling satiated by what we're seeing on the menu, right? Like our appetites aren't we're not starving. We're champing at the bit for info, but we're not feeling as if this meal will have enough courses to give us that need of fully good yumminess by the time that
Hmm.
BlizzCon closes its curtains. And I'm two minds about it because on the one hand, I think, and we've kind of been saying this, like if this 1 hour panel is chock full of just mind blowing, like 2.4 is going to rock your socks, we're giving you another like huge feature similar to Kanai's Cube, then I think there won't be, I almost want to say like a dry eye in the theater, you know, like I feel like there
Hmm.
will be a lot of excitement and clamoring and hope to take from that panel. So I guess we shouldn't be too fast to say that quantity equals quality
Yep.
because we could have a ton of quality come out of smaller quantity.
Hmm.
But then also, and something that you were kind of touching on last week as well, the Dark Moon Fair thing and the this slaughtered calf slaughtered
Slaughtered.
calf. I
Yep.
I swear I'm not
I'm
slaughtered.
rubbing. I'm rubbing off on you, man.
I know, right? It's happening so quickly. The Slaughtered Calf Inn, I think, represents a unique experience because one of the most hallowed and favorite pastimes of Diablo BlizzCon goers is the story time with Wyatt
Hmm.
sessions that have been kind of becoming a staple with the last few BlizzCons. And so the fact that you essentially have that ad nauseum, like as much as you can stomach of it for 2 days straight, is it represents an interesting opportunity to potentially get a bunch of nuggets that are kind of being delivered piecemeal. And I think it'll actually be really good for the fan sites, if anything, because they'll be able to kind of stick around, have those conversations with whoever shows up as a dev or a story developer or whoever, an artist, whoever have you.
Hmm.
Um, and also be able to listen to some of the BlizzCon goers that are asking their own personal questions and agendas, and you'll be able to keep putting out these like little tweets or small articles being like, oh, we just got this tidbit of info. So it's still going to be a time to keep your ear to the ground for Diablo. But I think maybe the biggest blow is that there's just nothing that's like so immense that it's going to be on PC Gamer or Kotaku or anything like that. And maybe that's what some of the more general public, people who aren't like deep into this thing, are a little bit more offended by.
Hmm.
So I think there's good and bad there. There's potentially more upside than good, but you have to dig a little for it
Yeah.
to keep the hope alive.
No, I can definitely, understand you on that one. But I guess it's like the biggest thing, you know, everything that we wouldn't have gotten, inside the panels. I'm sure that we'll still get the information. There's just not going to be any slides or pictures or videos to go along with it. But there's going to be, I'm sure there'll be pages and pages and pages, and like anyone that's going to be covering anything, it's like you'd have to stay at the Slaughtered Calf Inn like the entire convention just to get and relate all of the information that's being disseminated by the devs. So where, if you have someone, you know, when if we go out and step out to lunch together and there's not someone else from like Diablo fans or Ink gamers that's standing there and some huge revelation just comes from some guys that are sitting there and talking with the devs about, oh well, this is going to be like this new event in the zone or whatever that we didn't talk about in the panel, and then like no one might know unless it gets pulled up on the forums or Reddit that the person that talked to them actually mentions it.
Mm-hmm.
So
It. Go ahead, sorry.
oh, I was just gonna say, so there's a lot of, I guess for me, I have a lot of like excitement about, being there and talking with them, and I'm just like looking at it. It's like, well, what else am I gonna be able to do, or games to play, or panels to watch for some of the other games? Just because it's like I feel as if I'm missing something if I'm not there.
That's right. It almost commands more of your attention because you don't want to be gone for that 1 minute where like someone asks the secret question. They say the secret word of the day and they're like, "Here's info," and you're like, "Crap! I was playing Overwatch." That's like the worst feeling because of course you want to play Overwatch,
The,
but
I want to say like 2 years ago during one of the story times with Wyatt, or afterwards, or after BlizzCon or something, that it was he had mentioned, or maybe as I'm thinking of one of the CMs mentioning it on the forums about something, or maybe it was leading into Reaper. It's a while ago. I'm sorry, my memory is bad. But it
Mhm.
was something along the lines of we have more information to share, just no one is asking the right question.
All right.
there's some stuff that we can talk about, but no one is actually asking the right question for us to answer, and we don't want to let it slip and like go and get like kind of like remove the excitement of like the community actually asking the questions and getting the info.
Right. It
Um,
always reminds me of those moments where we get something like the tavern talks that used to be pretty popular on the Twitch stream, the Diablo Twitch stream, or just some of those general, the devs are going to put themselves out there. Here's an AMA or whatever have you, and people are like screaming at the one or two people who have the interview power to say like, why aren't you asking like this one really obvious thing? And it's like, well, we could ask that one really obvious thing that we know that they really obviously aren't going to answer, or we
mhm.
could continue to throw these darts at the board and potentially get like an interesting question out there that has an interesting answer that they just haven't thought to like give to us yet because no one's been asking about it, or they've thought about it but they haven't had an opportunity to like have that conversation sparked the right way.
Mhm. That definitely is it, because it's like, oh, when is 2.4 coming out, and then I'm sure that there's going to be the very first question for any Q&A that's going to be at that panel is going to be like, what about an expansion? If they don't answer it during the panel, it's going to be the first question asked, and I'm sure the answer is going to be, we have no information to share at this time. We'll have to go and see, or maybe they could go through and say, oh yeah, there'll be an expansion next year, or they could go through and say, there's not going to be an expansion. I don't know.
Right.
We go through and see. I'm sure that they'll say we just have nothing to share about an expansion at this time, if anybody asks. If you know, assuming of course that a single panel and no demo stations, there will be no expansion announcement this year.
Right. Pretty safe bet.
Yeah,
um
that was one of those ones that I had a tinfoil hat theory,
oh,
and I shot this one by you the other night.
yes, actually I really like this too, so go ahead.
Yes. Okay, so tinfoil hat on, pure rampant speculation. This is based off of nothing. Um, that is just like a thought or idea that I had, that what if Blizzard is holding off on showcasing or announcing anything for the Diablo expansion because they're waiting and seeing how Legacy of the Void does. Not so much like how it does or like financially, but how well it's received. Because of I've talked about this in the last two shows, but with Legacy of the Void is the end of the StarCraft story as we know it. There will be um, more StarCrafts after this, or is there at least the potential to be more StarCrafts after this? But it
Hmm.
won't be about Raynor, won't be about Kerrigan. It probably won't even be about like the Protoss or the Zerg. There might be not the Terrans that we're familiar with. It might be the UED and some other humans and such. So it might be completely new across the board. And this has a lot of people, not just myself, a little bit hesitant from the story aspect of it, not so much from the multiplayer aspect of it, and like the esports and such. So people, they might be waiting and seeing how players that play the game just for the story and aren't as interested in esports react to them closing up the storyline before they announce or showcase this next expansion, or maybe before they really start doing too heavy development or writing for the next expansion. Just because if you rewind back to 2009, 2010, in a couple of interviews, Jay Wilson briefly mentioned that Diablo 3 would wrap up the trilogy, that this would kind of like be the end of the Diablo storyline, just the same that they were talking about StarCraft 2 and its two expansions wrapping up the StarCraft storyline. But it was
Right.
only during that brief time period did he ever mention that, and it was never discussed or talked about in that framing again. It was only just within the couple months, and I think it was like two interviews in which that he mentioned that this would wrap up the story of like Diablo and the Soul Stones, and before they kind of would branch out the franchise in other directions later on. And so I'm wondering if they're really starting to get maybe some pushback or worries within the StarCraft community about how they're going to end Legacy, that they might um, just like kind of like change how they develop the story for this next expansion. And so, and rest in peace, Nevik. All,
Rip.
Rest in peace, Warrior. Seems Nevik just died on his puke doctor in a Greater Rift 62 just now. Live updates coming to you here on the
That's
Westmarch
right.
Workshop. Sorry, but it was just if that might be like if it's you know if it has a warm reception and people are okay with it, that they might continue on that path and wrap up not just the Diablo 3 storyline, but the entire Diablo storyline that we have so far in this next expansion. Or they might still wrap up Diablo 3 with this next expansion and that particular storyline of the Black Soul Stone and our particular heroes, the Nephilim, but continue on with certain aspects and characters into the future. We're not sure, and that's just what my tinfoil hat theory is that they're waiting, and so they might still be something in development, but they're waiting to see how fans react to Legacy before they do anything further with Diablo. But that is extremely tinfoil hat, type thing. Just because they already have made that decision many years ago about Legacy of the Void, and they're going through with it. And if it was something that they wanted to do internally, I'm sure that decision was made already. And Blizzard, they're whether for right or wrong, they always are confident and stand behind the decisions that they make. So I don't really see them you know, kind of being so wibbly wobbly about the decision about the story in this aspect. So
Right.
like I said, that is extremely tinfoil hat. Just a thought that came to me. Even I don't believe it in this one. So there you go. Just throwing it out there. Thought conversation.
Yeah, no, it was an intriguing one because when you first hit me with it, I was like, "What?" I was like, "Dude, this is such a long stretch of the imagination." I was like, "A very lore-based stretch of the imagination here."
Yeah,
But at the same time, it kind of represents two interesting things, at least for food for thought, right?
yeah,
One is that, and you kind of just touched on it right at the end here. Um, Maybe they already have made up their minds, right? But the success or the failures of LOTV and the wrap up of the StarCraft story will either further solidify that they feel like they've made the right decision with however they're planning to take Diablo and this particular story that we're telling right now and have been telling. Um, or it might give them some misgivings and maybe it could direct future development for anything else that they decide to do with the franchise. If we take a step back from that, it's interesting because it kind of brings it to more of like a meta of game development in general, right? Like we've been observing kind of the death of the MMORPG, the death of the subscription-based model, and more of this push to free to play, like especially with the advent of phone games and things like that, where you can grab so much cash from just all these little power-ups and things that you can buy and
hmm
extra lives and extra days to play and whatnot. So, there's a lot of incentive to continue with this model because it dips into pockets ever so slightly, but those ever so slightlies happen very, very frequently. So it builds up to very large amounts very quickly. And so we could see whether, and this is something I was thinking about, which I don't even think you necessarily were thinking about as you developed your idea, is maybe this is an opportunity to say, okay, well, we're going to launch LOTV as an expansion, although it's kind of its own like, standalone game too, because you
yeah,
don't
it
need
is.
the others.
You don't need any of the other games in order to
Mhm.
play it.
So it's weird because it almost sits in the corner of a DLC in a way, but like a really big one, but you
hmm
don't need the other stuff for it. It's weird because you can't really you can't say it's fully an expansion, you can't say it's fully its own game because you
Yeah.
kind of need the reference of the old stuff. So I don't
Only for
know.
the single player.
That's
Yeah,
true.
because
Actually,
for like the multiplayer, because obviously, like I said, it's not gauging how it does, financially, because the esports aspect of it is going to take off and do extremely well. But like the entire multiplayer game is contained within Legacy of the Void. If you want to play if you want to play the game just for the esports sake of it, and the multiplayer aspect, you only need to buy Legacy,
right.
and it will unlock everything for you.
Right. So I
Um,
guess yeah, so that's a good point to keep in mind. So that part of their money-making scheme, if you will. That seems like such a nefarious term, but like that part of their agenda to keep that revenue stream coming in isn't going to be affected by, what model or what method they decide to put this thing out in, right?
mhm.
Like they'll be able to continue their esports virtually untouched, and if anything, improve because of new units, better graphics, whatever have you. Whatever is coming, that's going to be a sweet update. That said, I think it's still at least interesting to have the conversation of, well, what would Diablo with purchasable DLC look like? Because this is the thing we always come back to, right? And we kind of had a mini conversation on this too, but mini kind of fits because microtransactions. The game doesn't have Diablo, going back to why we're here, it doesn't have a revenue stream that, we see besides box sales. Nothing
Yep.
that we can, as players, can really directly influence unless we just buy more copies for whatever reason. Um, there is a window that all of us are saying we would surely participate in, where cosmetics, um, cool additions to our accounts, however you want to put them, that don't touch gameplay even. We all seem willing to kind of buy into, some more than others. Some, don't care, so it could go in anyways and they won't be affected. When we start to dip into things that could potentially affect gameplay, obviously that's something to be a little bit more careful about. But like we were mentioning before, we don't really know numbers about what's happening in China and what's happening in the other regions where the microtransactions were introduced. It would be cool. Maybe this is an opportunity to take the right person that sits at the Slaughtered Calf Inn and ask those kinds of questions. Say, hey, like how are microtransactions doing? Have you thought of anything in terms of bringing it to the Americas or the Europe
Hmm.
regions where it would potentially do well for you guys and continue to bring money into this thing? Because we want to support the gaming, we want to see more patches, more big development, potentially expansions and whatnot.
Yeah.
But why not capitalize?
Pretty much. I mean, there's usually at least one Reddit thread that pops up every single day talking about microtransactions, and it's like, they would kill for like a character slot or a portrait frame or a pennant, just something, something cosmetic. That there's a lot of interest out there for just little things like that, and they want and that's one thing that's come up since the BlizzCon announcement of the panels is just you know we we want if I pay you more money, Blizzard, will you make an expansion?
Right?
There's even that type of thing. It's like we'll make it
That blunt.
financially viable for you, but please just put the option on the table.
Seriously though, it's almost like coming down to that like drastic of a, do we need to, like, what do you need today? Do you need a Kickstarter for the expansion? Like, what do you want? Because we're willing, we're ready. But it's just kind of fun things to bat around. And of course, like Fauci's mentioning in chat too, like maybe they want to remain closed on their successes and or failures on the other regions. And that's something that, public companies do guard their numbers rather carefully because they want to either
Hmm.
maintain them for those quarterly calls with their investors and say like, hey, look at all this improvement, like, in one big fat delivering of numbers,
Hmm.
or get enough time to spin it so it doesn't look potentially as bad as it might have been or whatever have you.
Yep, very true.
So it's more wait and see. Of course, we can always continue to sit here and spitball some sweet tinfoil hat ideas for days.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, we'll just have to get out to California and see what we can throw at the wall and what will stick.
Yeah, what we can go and have come up, but other news. I mean, there is the what you call it, the BlizzCon pre-sale for the BlizzCon gear is up that you
Hmm.
can go through in what you call it. You can go through and buy some stuff. There's a whole bunch of shirts. It's one of those that kind of confirmed that there's not going to be anything too big or major because the key art, you can buy the key art shirts, posters and such. And there's nothing new on there.
Right.
Um,
Or
and normally, if
no question marks.
yeah, normally if it was something new that they didn't want to expose, it'd be a question mark. You could buy the shirts, but you wouldn't know what was on it because they're about to announce something. Now, everything is just out there, so no, I guess nothing new in terms of like an expansion or a new game for anything across the board.
Hmm.
Um, and I guess some of the Diablo stuff was I thought was really cool. Like one of my favorite, my shirt with Tyrael on it. They now have the sword with they have the shirt with just Eldruin. So they had the Braum fan art where he's like going through and he's holding Eldruin just as you were at the beginning of the episode, um, and then now it's just the sword that goes down the side.
Sin, what you need to do now is buy this new shirt, proceed to cut it in half, and also cut your other one in half, sew them together in some sort of haphazard fashion, wear that said shirt, and when people ask you what happened, you can just say that you were like so torn between the two that you couldn't decide, and so you
Uh,
put them together, right? Am I right?
yeah, sure. Let's do that. Um,
Oh.
in addition, they also have the Crusader. They have a poster for the Crusader since she is part of the key art. They always have the individual posters for it. And you can also get a Butcher barbecue apron, which is one of the greatest ideas known to mankind, and makes you wonder, Blizzard, why haven't you done this earlier? And why is it a BlizzCon exclusive? Everyone would want to buy this.
Right?
Period. End of story.
Make it happen.
Yep. There's also, I guess you also had noticed there's the pins. I kind of missed out on this one last year. Never really got too much into it.
Oh, dude, I'm planning to buy so many pins.
Hmm.
So I did participate in this pre-order. Another part of my story from earlier, I feel like Flux now going on the 2 hour Demon Hunter story, which now I'm thinking about again and laughing because it was ridiculous. Um, as part of the death sequence of events that last weekend, I decided that I would give myself retail therapy and go ahead and buy a lot of what I was planning to buy at BlizzCon through this pre-order. And I
Hmm.
got 5 packs of the pins, and they're $5 per bag, I think. And they're all randomized, so you don't know what you're getting. But I believe there are 9 like standard pins that you can get. Like one's Vala from Heroes, the Demon Hunter. A couple of other cool ones, but that's the one that I remember because it's the most important one, obviously.
Yep.
And so you get random ones. You open up the bag. It's almost like open up your Pokemon trading cards back in the day. Like you don't know what's coming. You can also get golden versions of them as well. I actually have some examples right in front of me. That Thunderclaw, a Reddit mod who we've had on the show previously,
Hmm.
he got some for me when he was at BlizzCon, and I couldn't make it. Hopefully he'll focus. I'll have to check the stream. But you can get like golden versions of this golden Sylvanas, for instance. And what people do, there's actually a trading corner at BlizzCon where you can bring both, or however many you have. You can only trade 2 at a time, though. So if you're looking for a specific one, like an Artanis or something that someone was lucky to find, but they don't give a crap about StarCraft, you can trade with them. And so it's this really cool kind of like mini game aspect to BlizzCon where people are getting these pins going back and forth, and it's they've had multiple series before. So
Hmm.
if you're really into collecting it, you can get like the entire set from last year, this year, and so on and so forth.
Hmm. And it's this is really coming down to kind of like a this is I know a lot about like pin trading because some of one of my friends, him and his family are like huge into like the Disney pin trading.
Oh,
And so
cool.
you have like all these limited edition pins and such, and they're even doing it where the community, anybody that's a member of the community team is going to have a lanyard on that will have pins, and you can trade. And so trades are 1 for 1, and if they have a gold pin, you can only trade it for another gold pin. And
Mhm.
it's one of those. It's I think it's you think you can do 2 trades uh, with each of the community team members, like per day or something along those lines.
Mhm.
And it's just, it's one that if it works like it does at Disney, they could have like the rarest pin in the world, and you could have the most common one, and you say, well, I want to trade, my Annoyatron, for your like Diablo 2 Assassin, which doesn't even exist, but somehow you're wearing, and they would have to trade it for you. If that's how like the Disney thing works, I imagine
Oh,
that
that's
that's
cool.
that's probably how it would work here. That they could have some of the Series One pins, which you can't purchase, but you could walk around if you find them. You could trade one of your multiples of your Series Two pins with them to get a Series One.
Right, so it's almost like playing the RNG game in real life is well twice because you're.
Hmm.
Oh my goodness, guys, it's like Diablo. So the item drops. That's when you open up the thing in your bag, and then you're like, okay, I got something. It's not a furnace, and so
Hmm.
you want to like re-roll, or you take it and try and go into your cube or whatever.
Yep.
And then you get the dev to come up to you or the community manager or whoever, and you're like, "Whoa, you have the thing I want!" And then
Yep.
boom, RNG times two. I love it.
There
I
you
love
go.
it.
And then they also have you can buy the cute but deadly lanyard with the particular pins. So you have like the Sylvanas, Arthas, Illidan, um,
I do like
and
that Sylvanas.
yep. So you can get those directly from that lanyard set. I think that's the only way that you can get them.
Mhm.
There's also the Mercadin pin, Mercadan. I guess it would be Mercadan because it's supposed to be Illidan or Illidan, Mercadin. I don't know how to. Ah.
Go with it.
Anyways, let's do that. So the golden pin that you get in the goodie bag, and you can buy the goodie bags this year, so you can get yourself that little special golden pin. And then also there is the collector's edition Alex Straza pin, which is only available to purchase at the trading booth itself. There's only 2,015 of them. So if that's something that you'll actually have to be at the convention, and you'll have to get to that trading booth as quickly as you possibly can.
Might have to try for that just because that's
Hmm.
some serious rarity right there.
Yep. And then there will also be the Fireside Gathering pin, which is the Fireside Gathering card back, which will be they'll have these special community events that will give these pins out throughout 2016. But if you participate in one of the micro tournaments or one of the duels, or by defeating one of the developers during one of the playtests, or by answering some of the Hearthstone trivia questions, you can get a chance to win one ahead of time this year, because otherwise it will only be given out during 2016 for select fireside events orchestrated by Blizzard.
hmm That's another one that has a potential to be pretty rare as well.
Hmm. So there's some things out there for those that are in the pin market. I know I want to grab, like Tyrael, Sylvanas, and some other ones from Series One, since I didn't have a chance to get out there. I didn't get any of those, and I definitely need to get myself some Diablo pins. So
Definitely, yeah.
definitely, yeah, definitely, yeah.
And then,
Um,
of course, to wrap up,
yep.
perhaps our
Our
triumvirate of
BlizzCon.
BlizzCon news,
Yep.
Linkin Park, da-na-na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na, rocking out,
Hmm.
closing up the show on Saturday night.
Yeah, and I know that that one has the community divided because there's a lot of people that, of course, Linkin Park is one of those bands that people just love to hate. Um, but in the end, it doesn't really matter.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yes.
Look,
I had to do it. I had to do it because they're the ones that are going to be playing. So like it or not, that's going to be there. I guess it's one of those. It's usually during the concerts, so that even a couple years ago, like when the Foo Fighters were playing.
I'm sorry, but you're
uh,
being booed in chat right now. Oh man, it's so
oh,
it's so unanimously negative towards you right now. It's
uh,
wonderful.
it's just Meneghis and DJ Tyrant. Who cares about these? I don't. Who cares?
Bunch of
Um,
jokers.
yeah, their opinions mean nothing. Um, but yeah, it's always during the concert. So even like during the Foo Fighters, I was out, playing games or talking to developers, and so it's always like one of those that is like a great opportunity because everybody's at the concert to go and do everything else that you wanted to do during the convention itself because there's like no lines, and then if you can catch a developer, they're not going anywhere, and you can just sit and chat with them for a couple hours. So we'll have
Mhm.
to see like what the Slaughtered Calf Inn plays out to be. What they actually have playing on at the demo stations. How much I like Lincoln Park, or not how much I like Lincoln Park. How much I like Overwatch to see if I'll go watch Lincoln Park over um, just spending the rest of the time at the convention. And then I know they live streamed the virtual Metallica on the virtual ticket last year, and I enjoyed watching that.
That was
But
sweet.
was the concert itself available on the virtual ticket afterwards
Oh,
to go back and watch? I don't remember.
that's a good question. I don't know. I know I caught that one live, so I didn't. It wasn't one of the things I went and watched again
Hmm.
after the event was over.
Yeah, the same here.
Hmm. Interesting question. But yeah, if that's the case, then you probably have a better view of the entire thing than if you were down in the pit. But I mean, kind of like being amongst all the jumping and stuff is kind of the reason to go see the concert, anyways.
Yeah,
If you're
definitely.
if you're into that.
Hmm.
But no, I think that's a good point. And actually, I was talking to Dreadside, and he kind of put it in an interesting perspective that, you know, the reason that you go to BlizzCon isn't for, it's not like you go to BlizzCon for a concert and then there's games happening. You go for the games and then there's also a concert happening. So it kind of makes sense that, if unless it's your favorite band in the entire world that you haven't had a chance to see before or won't ever again or something
Hmm.
to that degree, it almost makes sense to kind of prioritize the games and have the concert be your background music, almost like you're, streaming or as you play your games normally and have some music in the background.
Hmm. And then Menegis is talking about they really need to get a non-rocked act for next year. The first two, actually the first 3 years of BlizzCon, it was Video Games Live. They
Mm,
had a special Video
I'd
Games
love
Live
that.
that they did only Blizzard music for the concert. Normally they do a whole range of different genres and titles and such, but for obviously it's BlizzCon, so they played just stuff from the Blizzard titles. But
Nice.
I
That'd be.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say that'd be sweet. Yeah, I like.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of those. Video games live or like the. I know there's like the Final Fantasy orchestra thing that tours the country a little bit too. I haven't seen any of those, so
Mm-hmm.
that would be a cool opportunity and also relevant, of course.
Of course. Well, we'll have to wait and see until they announce the 2016 band. My money, I guess, the way that things have been going, they could do Corn.
Or Limp Biscuit.
Yeah, that's another one. That's another one they could do.
I want honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see more like electronic dance music
Yeah,
acts get in. Like Dead Mouse would made a lot of sense this year.
yeah, would
Um,
have, especially his close connection to the Diablo team.
right?
Or there's another one that would actually make a lot of sense. Garbage. Um, because they were really big because all these past bands that they've been doing like Blink 182, Linkin Park, they were all big during that same time frame that Garbage was, and they're actually Garbage just came out with a new album recently, and they're touring at the moment.
Okay. I thought you were I thought you were about to make some like reference like pseudo dig to Blizzard like because everything's garbage now or something. I was like, how is that? Wait a minute.
I
That's
I am
mean.
shocked and offended that that is where you thought I was going with that.
You know, I don't know. Well, maybe I was jumping the gun because our next topic's got me so riled up, but garbage, man. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that band in quite some time.
Yeah. Well then, speaking of our next topic, why don't we jump in there?
So, something that is clearly of importance to the both of us because we both put our names on this document
Mm-hmm.
is a thing that's been circulating within the last week. It went live this past Saturday, and if you're a person that is concerned about Diablo, you've probably seen it because it got plastered everywhere, which was kind of our goal and aim. Um, D3CAB.org is the official homepage for this letter. It's an open letter to the from the community. So from a lot of us in the community that just like are very involved in it through websites, through fan sites, through podcasts, through streaming, just people that are invested in the game to the degree that they wanted to have something kind of said about this issue. And it's an open letter to the developers, basically the Diablo team, about botting and just the ridiculousness of how out of hand it's gotten, and maybe even more so just the lack of communication coming from the other side. Because Nineball can attest to this as well. You go to Reddit in the last month and a half, and my God, there isn't a day that goes by that there's not a topic about the world's most famous botter, who doesn't even deserve to have his name mentioned anymore, or some other topic that just talks about the fact that botting is kind of ruining um, the way that people want to play this game because they feel like when they log in, it's already over because someone has already botted that night or that day, and their playtime just feels meaningless when they start to make those, cross player comparisons and whatnot. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, it is stinking up the leaderboard too. Like I actually saw this came out after our letter had come out. And I'm gonna shut up in a second so that you can chime in on some other parts of this too. But one thing that Quinn actually posted that was from a fan that posted something to him, this fan took the top, I think it was 12 of the monk solo leaderboard on that given day. It might have been earlier this week.
Hmm.
And then he calculated the playtime during the season that all those monks had accumulated on their account. And it was a very telling infographic because there was Quinn at the top, rank one monk with the amount of hours divided by the amount of time that the season had potentially been up, and it was like 12 hours per day.
Yeah, it
And we
was.
see it. You
Yeah,
have you seen this?
yeah, I saw that one. I was actually going to mention it if you hadn't.
Oh, perfect. So like, it and that is like obviously a ton of gameplay, a ton of time, but we have incontrovertible evidence to the fact that it is him because you can watch him play those 12 hours every day
And that
at his stream.
And that's also over the course of the season. He hasn't actually been playing 12 hours a day because he was playing, like 16, 18 hours a day at the very beginning of the season. And so
Mm.
that's gone through and helped increase that amount. But the other people that are up there, it's just like,
Like
okay.
numbers that clearly make no sense, like some averaging, like 20 hours per day,
Uh-huh.
19, 18. And next to them, of course, rather lovingly, as a shout out to the moniker that has, or moniker is probably the wrong word, but like the icon for botting that has come out, this brother Chris icon, which, if you don't know the story, I'm sure you know the story,
Hmm.
um, that has been tagged for each of those people that are more than likely botting. But I mean, it's something that we're kind of laughing about, but it also is a serious topic too, because at this point, I mean, it's very, very clear there are people in the community that explicitly state that they're botting. Muggs was talking about this on Flux's podcast, DiabloII.net's most recent podcast that just came back. Good to hear from Flux, of course, because I know some people last episode were kind of wondering about him.
Yep.
Um, and he's been talking to people that he's been playing with in his pickup greater rifts and stuff, and they're like, yeah, when I'm not playing, I'm bodding, and that's how I get my greater rift keys. That's how I get my materials.
Hmm.
So like, there are those people on one side who are the very few, but maybe very loud detractors from the anti-botting standpoint, who are like, but they don't even gain an advantage when they bot, but they really do, and it's
Hmm.
pretty clear.
Yeah, and so it's one of those that it's kind of like more or less been mathed out. Like every 200, 300 Paragon levels that you gain over 800, just flat out without the actual like the gear upgrades and such that you get, it's a whole other greater Rift level. So all those extra Paragon levels that you're gaining by botting just non-stop, so you're always gaining experience, is going to push you over your competition, give you an advantage over your competition. And even then, for people that might say that, oh, well, botting doesn't impact me because I don't care about the leaderboards. Well, you care about the health of the game, right? And this is one that's more going to affect kind of the meta of the community. That the community is always going to be, people are always going to look at like stream numbers. Oh, dead game. It's like when StarCraft started having the stream numbers drop off when it was getting real competition from Dota, and League of Legends was almost always ahead of it, um, that it was like, oh, StarCraft is dead. Even though it obviously is a great, healthy game that still has a very huge following, it might not be as big as League of Legends, but it does itself for its own. That you start having a lot of that in the streamer community, that you'll see, oh, well, this high end gamer. Imagine if Quinn it gets fed up with having to um, you know, play catch up with people that are botting at an unfair advantage, and so just says, that's it, I'm done. Just in the same way that Jh has just recently walked away from
Hmm.
the game. He posted this whole letter to the forum saying that this is one of the last things that I'm going to post for the Diablo community because I'm walking away from the game until, even though he's got a lot of real life stuff going on, that until the botting situation gets handled in a better fashion, that it just not appealing to him. He doesn't like competing with people that are botting or using exploits and such, and so it really affects him. And when people see big names walk away from the game, that makes it like, oh, dead game, but it also makes other people question, and it makes them walk away from the game, and kind of creates a level of toxicity within the community that then pushes other people further away from it. And so it kind of has like this compound meta involvement, um, about why, even if you don't care, you get to like Paragon 200 in an entire season and only play like 1 hour a day. The fact that, like, if you're watching the show or you go to the forums or you go to Reddit, the fact that people are botting does impact you, because if you have big names that go through and suddenly, like the wizard community is losing something great in that Jh is leaving.
Hmm.
So you're losing something that brought a lot of knowledge and wisdom to the community with him not being a part of it.
Right.
And it's just, so there are these certain little aspects that can affect you, even if you aren't potting and not going for the leaderboards. And it's just one of the things in the letter that we know that you're not going to be able to like 100% solve botting itself, but when you have people that are in the top 10 leaderboards that are playing over 20 hours a day, and this is an average 20 hours a day since the season itself started. It's like, how can they not be botting or account sharing or something else that's breaking the terms of service, which should equate some form of ban?
Hmm.
And it's just like, I guess we would like to just have better opportunity with which to try and report botters, or seeing a little bit more of a stance from Blizzard. They have done a whole bunch of ban waves of bots and such, but it always seems like it's a little bit too few and far between. Even if they did like mini ban waves a couple times during a season, or if we could even be guaranteed that there will be like a botter ban, like at the 2 week announcement before the end of the season, that might
Hmm.
be something a bit more, but just a little bit more transparency, and let us know, because they do a lot in the back end and they don't like talking about account actions, but it always is kind of left when you have those people that stream and fully admit to botting on stream, screenshot it in public forums, going through and saying, yeah, I bot.
Hmm.
And you have communities with players and battle tags that go through and share their botting techniques, and things aren't being done about them. It is a little bit disconcerting, especially to those that help carry the community, the ones that are kind of like the public figureheads and at the top, which are, the majority of the people that went through and signed the list to
Right.
go through, and that we stand against it, and we would like to see a little bit more transparency or something more from Blizzard in their handling of the botting situation.
Yeah, it's really it's kind of like a call to arms, but not necessarily to fight each other, more to like say, let's sit down at the table,
Hmm.
meet us halfway. We're giving you all these data points, we're giving you kind of our frustrations in a very directed and pointed manner, and we just want to hear what's happening on the other side. It really is kind of a cry for words. Like we just don't get enough from the other side to really know what the direction is that's being taken against cheats and against things that are making the game feel really frustrating to play. It kind of there's a couple of things that in my mind get triggered when we start to get into this level of digging into the issue spotting, just because it's clear that the game is in a decent spot right now. Like
Hmm.
we have other issues that we want to always kind of harp back on, like the solo versus group, and we've kind of beaten that one to death a little. Some of the lag stuff that's still there with witch doctors and
Hmm.
just high density situations, but the botting one feels the most real right now, simply because it feels like it's one of the ones that could potentially be actioned in a way that has a kind of like a uplifting like feel. I don't even know how to describe it quite like accurately, but I just feel as if if we got news about what they plan to do, or just something that said like this is important to them as it is as important to us, then we would at least start to feel better. It could just be lip service, but at the same time, like it just begins to open those doors of conversation. And one of the things that we were contemplating in the background as we developed this letter, because this has been something that all of us that kind of signed on to this thing threw back and forth in a couple of mediums of getting it to the presentation that you see on the website. Um, and really, it was kind of like, what's our timing? Like, what is our goal and what's our timing? And we wanted to make sure it was at a timing where, there wasn't too much going on, so it wouldn't be swept under the rug or flooded out or, kind of like radio noise compared to BlizzCon hype or anything. But also before BlizzCon, so that, we are going to go to this event and maybe we can continue the conversation there or really start it, really get it going, and hopefully get positive results out of this, or just at least like a positive feeling to come from it.
Yeah. And it's not that Blizzard doesn't care. We know that they do. We know that botting is a serious issue for them as well. We just want to know more. We just want to see a more proactive approach being taken. To go through and take action against these people that are just they're obviously breaking terms of service one way or the other.
Hmm.
Because being able to play 20 hours a day for a month and a half straight, just something's got to give at some point.
That's right.
And they wouldn't even be able to argue that, oh, I just left my game on and it never logged me out, because Blizzard would be able to see that it's been active for the majority of all that time. So it's not even like I fell asleep and so it took me an hour to kick me out of the game or something along those lines.
That's right. Yeah, it's a something. It's a start. It's a continuation. It's a let's get to the bottom of this, perhaps, or at least if even if they tell us at the end of the day that they're just working on it, or that it's hard to detect, or they don't want to tip their hand too much because they don't want to tip off the bot makers that bans are coming, or they can upgrade their bots or whatever. At least that's more than we know today, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, so we'll see.
yeah. Um, Other than that, we did have not really, I guess, like so much official news, but as the official Diablo Twitter does like to do here and there, time and again, they kind of go and they tweeted out this little picture here. Which would you choose? So you have an ancient Carnival and an ancient Grim Reaper. Both of them are relatively decent. Not anything's been re-rolled on it. They both have sockets. They both have intelligence. The Carnival came with crit chance and mana per second, where the Grim Reaper has vitality and mana per second. But of course, the Carnival is, excuse me, the five fetishes closest to you will also shoot a powerful dart, poison dart every time that you do, and the Grim Reaper is a chance when attacking to summon a couple of horrific mimics that will cast some of your equipped skills. I'm just kind of throwing that one. It's like if you were playing a Witch Doctor, what would you pick? What would you want? And
And since you are playing a
and,
witch doctor,
and since I am playing a Witch Doctor, I actually looked at that one. It's an interesting decision because those are both two very good choices. And because the Carnival right now, if you can get a good high level group together that has someone that really knows what they're doing, like that's going to be pulling, whether it's your healing monk or another barb, that will pull mobs like really close together for you, the Carnival with the Dagger of Darts is going to do an insane amount of damage if you can get it to pierce a whole bunch of enemies.
mm,
Um, but to that effect, if you don't have a Carnival build together, or you don't have a group that can effectively pull, then the Grim Reaper is probably going to be better for you. Like that's what you're going to be using for like the multitude of pet sets, as well as the Helltooth, the current Helltooth builds, which have also been extremely popular.
that's
The
right.
Grim Reaper might not be your choice of helmet to wear, but is one of the most commonly cubed items for the Helltooth builds. So they're both very, very uh, great, powerful items. But it's kind of like which one would you rather do? Are you playing Carnival? Are you playing Helltooth? Is what that one really comes down to.
Yeah, it almost feels like are you grouping or are you solo thing too? Because don't quote me on this. I'm not the witch doctor expert, but as far as I can tell in the meta right now, it seems like the dagger of darts. build slash version of Witch Doctor is being featured in kind of before the static charge monk thing came to be, is being featured in a lot of those top GR clearing, speed clearing, experience farming setups where you have like your healing monk, your EP monk, your
Hmm.
pulling barb, and then the dagger darts Witch Doctor to kind of blow it all up.
Hmm.
It was kind of the DPS. You could replace the dagger darts on with your static charge, or replace that with your Hoda barb or something to that
Hmm.
degree. And then it seemed, at least early this season, when I was observing some of the witch doctors in our clan, a lot of the solo pushing was actually being done in the Helltooth set.
Yeah. Yeah, for the solo pushes, Helltooth is better because with the Carnival and Dagger of Darts, you need someone that really can group up the mobs so you get as many pierces on those darts as possible to really up your damage.
So if you can't, and witch doctors aren't pulling by themselves, I guess as much. So
Yeah,
makes sense.
Pronado isn't the greatest of pull skills. It doesn't have a very large range.
Gotcha. So cool. Glad to see that they're continuing to do that too. I wonder who's doing the Diablo account because I think Tivler was kind of tasked with that, and now he's of course moved on to other shores.
Yeah, that is to my knowledge. Yeah, Tivler was the one that was handling the social media accounts because Lilira went over to the Overwatch team, but now that he's officially part of the StarCraft 2 team, I don't know. They I guess that is one announcement that we're going to be having sometime shortly. From what I've heard, they did find a replacement for the community manager.
Manager,
Yeah,
Mr. Manager.
yep. So the person replacing Lylira, they did hire, but it's not officially been announced yet. Who it is. So we haven't been introduced. Maybe we'll know at or before BlizzCon.
Yeah, that'll be an exciting one.
Yeah. So I mean, at this point, it has to be either Nevelistus or Grimiku that's been handling it.
That's right. By
Which
process of elimination.
because it's a witch doctor, I'm gonna go with Nevelistus because she's been playing witch doctor this season.
That sweet, sweet kitty mojo.
Uh-huh. Powers of deduction and logical reasoning. Um, yeah. From there, I guess we have a little bit of time if you want to cover like one more topic, or if you want to just kind of jump into the community feedback and emails.
Which topic would you like?
I don't know. Which one would you choose? You're the one that came up with some of these, so I will give you the opportunity to find which one you want to talk most about.
I think my gut wants to jump into one topic as a preview for potential topics next time. So like a little
All right.
teaser to come back. And so one of the things that popped up on Reddit, because I've been falling in love with Reddit this particular season of Diablo. Early on in the season, I was on there every single day, just kind of seeing what the what was going around the community. And as the season has kind of fallen into its mid-seasonal lull, so has the Reddit. It kind of follows. So there hasn't been that many interesting or intriguing things over there, but Dead Set actually threw up a what do they call them? Threads, I guess. What are the cool kids calling these things these days? A thread over on Reddit detailing the fact that he had come up with a lot of new builds that came up since the season launched. So sort of like mid-seasonal builds that kind of represent the current meta of the game right now. So there's your like
Mm-hmm.
how to build your static charge monk right now. I believe he updated it for the proc satyr, if you will, the crusader that kind of uses all the skills that proc a lot, have really high proc coefficients, which we can talk about in more detail if that's confusing for people next week. But it's sort of just the stuff that you're likely to see if you're playing with groups that are doing like the GR meta, putting 4-player groups together to get experience. And it's really useful. So if you head on over to Reddit, the name of the topic it is, if I can open this, Dead Set's Guides to 2.3 Update, Proc Crusader, Monk Madness, and Supports Galore. So if you check that out, and it is posted by Dead Set too. So if you find his Reddit account as well, it's the underscore Dead Set.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that authored by him as well. A lot of really good info. He's really good and really thorough about the guides that he puts together. So highly recommended, and we will talk about some of them in the future.
Mm-hmm. An announcement of an announcement.
It wouldn't be Diablo related if we didn't do it that way, right?
Of course, of course. Is I have to mention it on the show at some point, but I imagine most people listening to this probably saw the Star Wars trailer that came out on Monday.
Oh boy.
I don't know if anyone else did, but Sunday night they showed the trailer for the trailer.
Was it just like a 10-second clip of all the other clips?
Oh, it was three, like, I want to say it was like three 5 second clips
Oh wow.
that they had went and put together. Like the whole string of it with like the intros and outros in between and such for the teasers of the teaser was about 15 seconds long. And so it was just I watched the teaser trailer. I don't know, and it just was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Then the trailer itself came out, and of course the Star Wars tickets went on sale on Monday night. I was working the closing shift. We had a bunch of people that were there. We sold out like 1.5 shows. We sold like over 120 tickets that night, and a whole crap ton more online. But we had about, I want to say, like 6 or 7 people that stayed, hung out at the bar in our lobby to watch the trailer, because it's like they didn't, it was down to like a minute and a half in the game, but then there was a flag and then a penalty and then someone got injured, and it was just, it kept the minute and a half turn into like 20. So they didn't want to risk not catching it on their drive home.
That's legit. That's really
Hmm.
cool. It's kind of like one of those moments in time, like you had to be there, you know?
Yeah, and it was epic and everything that I wanted, and I will talk more about that trailer in the after show, for those that are joining us here live tonight.
All
Because
right, let's.
there was a lot of really cool little tidbits and Easter eggs in that trailer.
So what you just did was an announcement of an announcement
Announcement,
about an
announcement.
announcement.
Hey, there we go. And
Hot damn.
we have to we have to keep it going, don't we?
Well, we can announce that we're about to announce another section. Well, not really. We're gonna hop into emails, right?
Yes, yes, we
Yay.
are.
I announced it.
There you go.
I pronounce that we are emailing right now.
Uh huh.
So,
You
without further
pronounced the pronouncement correctly.
pronounce. How deep into this well can we go? My goodness. And actually, it looks like I usurped some of your power because the first email is slated over to you.
I think
So,
I think that's actually for you.
oh, just kidding. It's for me.
Uh huh. There you go.
All right, let me hop in here. This
And
actually,
before we go on, B Dog 52 also did want me to mention that tonight is Back to the Future, or today, October 21st, is Back to the Future Day. We do not have hoverboards or flying cars, Jaws 19, or anything else that we were promised besides the self-strapping Nike shoe.
well,
And if
one
we
out
really,
of 36 ain't bad, right?
yeah, there you go. Anyways, carrying on.
All right. Well, let's see here. We got an email from Andy, and he sends us something that's kind of following up on a thing that happened previously on the show. He says, "Sup, fellas?" Or should that be fellow from now on? Well, you have the answer to
Oh.
that. Listening to the show last night, and he's referring, of course, to episode 69, and it was great as always, but a particular email caught my attention. He believes that it was the one from Ben that showed a capture of his barbarian with 180% movement speed. He says that's quite some movement speed, but it got him thinking he could do a little bit better on his Witch Doctor. So
Mm-hmm.
he was super stoked that, Witch Doctor this season has gone from perhaps one of the slowest classes back in previous times to one of the fastest moving classes with the advent of the chicken. I'm a chicken, I'm a chicken, I'm a chicken.
I actually just last night finally got the offhand, so I have that if I wanted to build it.
Oh boy. I think you should because it's so much fun to just run around as a chicken. Not
An
even gonna
electric
lie.
chicken.
I don't even have a witch doctor at 70 and I'm just advocating for it because it's fun to watch. I've seen 3 days and Lala run around in their chickens and have been jealous because I've been like whirlwinding as a mighty bard and there was this little chicken running by me faster than I could ever go.
Yeah, I think we talked about this when Lala was. Was it the episode that Lala was here, or maybe it was the episode after? Just the visual like thing of the barbarian being passed by a chicken shooting lightning bolts out of it. You
It's
know,
just
Like just picture you are this massive, 8 foot tall mountain of flesh, just hacking and hewing through enemies, and then all of a sudden a chicken runs by you, and everything is just being electrocuted to death.
Makes sense, right?
Exactly.
Everyday occurrence in Sanctuary.
Totes.
Oh
Totes.
boy. And so Andy essentially provides us his breakdown of how he got the what he's calling the new Sanctuary land speed record. And if you can beat this, we want to hear from you. So come on over and let us know. But for right now, he's got the record using Fierce Loyalty for 30% movement speed. He's got Spirit Walk with Jaunt Rune for 50%, Horrify with Stalker for 20%, Soul Harvest Soul to Waste for 50%, and Sacred Harvester Knife Cubed for 10 stacks. Hex Angry Chicken, of course, 150% with the Manajuma set bonus.
Gotta
He's
have
got
that.
naturally. Chrome's Buff Belt given that 25%. Retchel's Ring of Larceny for the 60% on the Fear. Warzekian Arm Guards, which I actually don't note the amount that they give you, but it is 50%. Boon of the Hoarder at 30%. And then the base movement speed, of course, at 25% for a total of 490% movement speed. And he didn't have a Fleeing Shrine.
No. And I have it up right here. He sent in a screenshot that shows his full 490% move speed. And he goes through and he already says that you can break this record because I didn't have a fleeting shrine, so you can actually go faster than this. But Leviathan, you were also pointing out that you could go even higher than that because he wasn't using Wreath Lightning.
That's right. Yeah, because the secondary unlock, that rank 25 unlock on the Wreath of Lightning, also provides a movement speed bonus that does go above the cap, like you noted,
Hmm.
um, once it's being procced. So, boom, even more movement speed if you
There
want.
you go. Yeah. So I am expecting orbital speed, orbital. Never mind. A speed with
Abadada?
which get you into orbit. There, orbital
Just give up on the
speeds.
word.
Yep, killing it,
I
killing it.
love it. Yeah, man, gotta, and to sum it up, as Menegi says, gotta go fast.
Got to go fast, because if you ain't first, you're last.
Boom.
Yep. Moving on. We do have an email here from Biz Berserker 97. He just wanted to go through and say that he's his first time going through writing into the show. You can call me Biz. He's been a part of the community now for a couple months, and that he just gave a little bit of history about himself. He's been playing D3 since launch, and then he was playing D2 for about 8 years before that. Didn't really start getting serious about D3 until Reaper of Souls and the introduction of Seasons. He predominantly plays softcore, never tried hardcore. Um, it's hardcore, though I don't think with all that will play nicely with all the air guitar I play while gaming. So yes,
I like
if
this
you
guy already.
yeah, if you like to do the air guitar while going and playing and you're going through your riffs, maybe not. I don't think hardcore would be the right setup for you. Um, but right now he's going through and in seasons with the Uliana's Monk. He's pushed solo 52. He's comfortably farming or he's solo pushed up to 55 and is solo farming 52s. And then previous to this was during season 3, he had a 43 with Talrash's Wizard. He likes to primarily play solo. Um, and he just kind of wanted to go through that he's also been considering playing a Helltooth Witch Doctor. Basically the same reason for me, to go through and try and knock out some conquests, or maybe another monk to try out Static Charge or to roll a heal monk. And then he also just wanted to chime in since last episode I was looking for feedback on the show format. And actually still am, even though Leviathan is here joining me full time as a co-host. Like I said, my situation might be changing within the next couple of months, and so the show itself might have to change a little bit. But for the time being, everything is going to be continuing on as it is. But he does enjoy the 2 hour format. But he also because he can listen to it while he plays, since he plays in kind of like long stretches. But he'd also enjoy either a shorter or a more frequent, like kind of like a show segment of just going through and kind of hitting. Like maybe a single topic or an update of the news, maybe something about 15, 30 minutes long. And that's something that I think that we could definitely talk about and maybe do in addition to the show, just having like a, the news and sanctuary type thing and hit up every
Ooh,
once in a while.
yeah, it could be very interesting.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's funny because we definitely, I believe maybe a few shows ago, or it could even have been one of the very, very early shows you and Archon did. One of the things that was always pointed out is, people love the podcast because they're either listening to it on their drives to work, and some people have, that hour commute, so the 2 hour thing's nice because you get it going and coming.
Hmm.
And then of course people will listen to Diablo stuff while they play Diablo too, so it's a nice background soundtrack. I know I do that too when I'm crushing my podcast volume while listening and playing the game. So it's great to have more content, of course, for that. Um, and of course, there's a little to continue this ongoing thread. Of course, he puts in some things about the Star Wars trailer there at the end too. So
Oh
again, if
yes.
you're sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah. I sorry. I did skip that part. Yeah, he was going and saying that he has so much hype and is expecting the movie to be so good. He agrees with my dislike for He Who Shall Not Be Named, which is in chat with us right now. Um, yeah,
Always,
always.
always, and forever. But yeah, man, the hype is real for the Star Wars. I can tell you that much. All right, we're moving right along here. We got an email from Ben, and he says he just paused episode 69. He was so moved by whatever we were talking. Wow, I'm already using we. What are we?
It's okay. Okay, you can do that.
Feels like I never left.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was so enamored by what you guys were talking about on episode 69 that he had to type that response right away. So he says, you guys were talking about possible ways to incorporate sets and legendaries, and to tell you my idea for wearing legendaries while still having set bonuses. His idea is that if you transmog a legendary item to look like a set item, then that item is counted as part of that set. Obviously, I still want
Hmm.
transmogs, but you get the idea at least. They could just call it something else other than a transmog. So that's interesting. If you take, like, let's say St. Archie's Gauge, right? The gloves
Yeah.
that give you the bonus against elites while for the first time they hit you for 10 seconds. Take that, turn them into some IK gloves. Now it counts as part of your IK set, but you're still getting St. Archie's Gauge bonuses.
Yeah. That would be interesting if you could. It's kind of like a mini. It's like a mini cube. It gives you like almost like I'd say like call it like the Ring of Royal Grandeur slot that you have like one free item that you can wear or something along those, and still have kind of like have the set bonus completed.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I guess that really is what it is, right? It's almost like a double up on the Ring of Rogrander.
Hmm.
Hmm. I mean, it would be interesting, especially when you consider some of the builds that people are trying to put together for like Death's Breaths farming. All the ones that seem to do it the best are the ones that incorporate sets that have a set weapon, because that gives you more
Hmm.
flexibility for putting in, the sage gloves or helm or boots.
Hmm.
Um, so that could even free up something for that, or you just transmog your one of your non-set pieces into. Well, I guess you probably would be wearing a six set.
Yeah.
I have to think
And,
about that one.
yeah, because I mean, that is one of those ones where it's like, they do in World of Warcraft. It's a five-piece set, but only a four-piece bonus, so you always have the one that you can off swap.
Mm,
And then for the, any of the sets like Natalia's Immortal Kings that has a weapon, because weapons are so important that they basically it's seven pieces for a six set bonus, so you can still swap out that one and then Ring of Royal Grandeur for another and still keep all of the bonuses if
right.
if they'd ever go to that route, making like everything kind of like seven piece, so you can kind of you have, well, where am I gonna which off piece am I gonna use, and then I can, if I need to, I can cube Ring of Royal Grandeur to swap out yet another piece.
Yeah, it seems like we always come to like that fork in the road of we either want there to be more available options per set versus the max bonus, or
Hmm.
we just want sets to not matter as much, so make like regular legendaries matter more. It's always like those two. Those are like kind of one, I guess, separate ends of the spectrum, right? Because one's is still allowing you to wear the set
Hmm.
versus one just not wanting to wear sets at all, but still be as powerful.
Yeah, and that's, if you look back, like particularly in World of Warcraft, they dictate play style through sets. So these sets, kind of as the new raid comes out, the new sets will come out, and this is how go through and particularly play, or what skills that you have to set up, and it affects your damage. And in Diablo, it's similarly that the sets dictate what skills are used, although there's a lot of variations between all of them and how you actually incorporate that set into your build. Like even just simply Helltooth, whether you're playing an the acid rain or zombie bears, is very distinctly different play styles, require different gear setups and such besides just the set. And they
Hmm.
have a lot of kind of like open-endedness built into them, and as they want to go through and copy things like Immortal Kings and the revamp of like cons to make more general sets that will give you some more freedom. But then, are you going to run into instances like kind of like with Immortal Kings or with Samuko that they're the way that it's set up that you can equip multiple sets on top of one another in order to get like bigger, better bonuses.
That's always the
And when
worry, right?
you lead into that kind of like that power creep of like how much are they willing to let that power creep go?
Hmm. I mean, I think it makes sense that, you want interesting set bonuses, but you certainly want to reserve the most powerful ones for committing more to that set. So obviously wearing a full six piece makes it much harder to add another set into that mix as well. And
Hmm.
that's where the most power of that set should lie because you're saying, all right, I'm going to go full IK then. I might want to try to mix IK and Raycore, but I'm only going to be able to benefit from, the four piece of each, and potentially both of those combined should only be like marginally better or maybe not as good as wearing the full of either. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? But I think it's probably better to lean towards making powerful sets that are just interesting in general. Let players find ways to like make these crazy combinations work. And then from there, like if it gets too out of hand, then you can introduce something that kind of either reins it back in or just gives more options, but on a similar level, so that
Yeah.
maybe even that one option that seems so OP isn't
Hmm.
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, and this was kind of like one of those ones that the D3 team themselves have kind of had to figure out on their own. Because if you look back at D2, there were certain classes where, yeah, that particular set was a really great way of going and playing, uh, but it didn't come into effect too much. And it didn't dictate. I mean, rune words like affected what you actually played, or some of them were just a particular skill, and then that was it. And you
Hmm.
kind of built something around it. Like a smited it was just smite. And so you just equip a lot of things that up to your skill level, and that was about it. And then some other items that would then boost your magic find, and then the only other one that you needed was Varkul's grasp and a life tap wand. So that way you could put life tap on the enemy and then go to town from there. Um, uh, or like I was just mentioning the assassin. It was like Fury. It was like your whole set was kind of built around just having that one rune word, and then everything else just wasn't so much like pluses to skills, but it was just something that would give you critical strike chance, up your strength, your dexterity to increase your damage, and going from there. Here they actually have to go and find ways of upping the power level in like ideas of I really want this skill to work, so I'm going to make a set around it or a set of items, to go through and buff this particular skill.
Hmm.
Because like Helltooth is just like a general damage type set, but then you have either using I think the Scrimshaw for zombie bears, or the Suwong for Acid Cloud. Of how you want to go through and set it up.
Right. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like there's always this cry for like make it so that it isn't just this one thing that is best. Like But when I think about anything else, it kind of always boils down to that. Like when you look at a football team, like the quarterback ends up being the most important part. But let's say you diminish the role of the QB, some other part is going to step up to be most important. So that might
Hmm.
go to the running back. It might go to like having a really good offensive line, or I don't know what. Maybe not the best example, but in the same vein for Diablo, people might want to say, okay, don't make sets the one like true way that we get this done. Don't make them only target like this one or two true skills or whatever, and limit gameplay that way. But at the same time, if you didn't and you went this route of trying to make all the legendaries better, you eventually just get to the point where you identify like the 13 non-set legendaries that go together, and guess what? It's a set. It's a
Yeah.
set of items that you put together and where
Hmm.
in order to probably prop up this specific gameplay style. Because the thing is, like, if you're trying to do a lot of everything, you become the king of nothing. You don't really have prowess in any one thing. You just are kind of okay at a bunch of
Hmm.
miasma of stuff. But if you do focus in on one skill or one to two skills, like you're kind of harping back on the D2 days of Fury or Smite or things like that, then of course you can build around that. And that's why you get such specific gear loadouts because that stuff all synergizes together to push forward that directed, theory crafted thought.
Hmm.
Um, So I think the best thing is usually trying to get compromise between kind of the two camps of isolation of like this is the specific gear set, these are the specific skills. If you can
Hmm.
find something that kind of unique or interestingly makes them intersect so that you're taking maybe multiple skills, some that you might not use, and then multiple sets and some that you maybe haven't been using and
Hmm.
find uses for them across the board, then boom, I think you got something good going.
Yeah. And it really, as you were saying, is always going to be that one outlier that is going to be the most important. And this is what you should go through and build, your spec around. And so they're always going to be, whether it's focused, the set itself is focused around a particular skill, like Unhallowed Essence, or as a general like Immortal Kings, there's going to be a specific set or a skill or off-piece item that's going to take precedence over everything else and be like, this is it. This is what you want to play.
Hmm.
This is how you play with this particular thing.
Some kind of cream's gonna rise to the top.
Mm-hmm. And our next email comes in from, is it Scott? Scout?
Scalp?
S-
Scott?
Scott?
Scout?
Skate? I don't. Skaut.
Sauerkraut.
There we go. I'll take that. Um, this one is actually coming in from the UK, if I can believe your email address. And that he wanted to chime in another idea about gold sinks. And that one is that what if you could use gold to buy like special legendaries that, or like that allows you to use gold to buy legendaries, the count bound legendaries from people that are in your clan. It's kind of like a gold sink, and that would have these set prices that if you wanted to trade a particular legendary, it would have like kind of like a set price, and so that way you could like someone could go and farm for gold that they might not play enough to actually like get a chance at getting a furnace, but there's a set price. I don't know whether it'd be by the game or if in the clan for purchasing that furnace. And that you could also then go through and say like you would get received blood shards or forgotten souls when you sell an item to get people to want to trade those items to other people. So kind of bringing a little bit of that trading aspect and community aspect back into it. For anyone that doesn't really care so much about climbing the Greater Rift ladder, and they might just be have fun doing what they're doing at like Torment 6. But it's an interesting take on it. But I think
Hmm.
it's like I don't think that trading is ever really going to come back to the game, to be honest.
Yeah, it's kind of like a clever like
Uh huh.
bait and switch of like, hey, I want to solve your gold sink problem, but I just really want to trade, maybe kind of.
Yeah, yeah, because there'll always be exploits, and you can never really, you can only do it like within the clan, but then people will just jump clans, and then you can be like, oh, but you have to put a time limit on it, so they'll just jump into the clan for X amount of time, then take the item and run, type thing. So it's just like, um, it's an interesting idea. I don't think that will really work out so much in that context. And then he also is, from the Tengu clan. that we've heard about over on EU.
That's right. Um, I do want to say though, at least one of the positive takeaways I'd have from this is that I like the idea, and I know we've kind of batted around ways to improve like clan togetherness, I guess, the feeling of like a clan mattering more so than it currently does. And I like the idea of at least like tying this potentially to that. Of course, like you were mentioning, exploits, loopholes, things that could be kind of used for ill gains. But it would be interesting if there was something, maybe not type of gold sync specifically, but just something in general as the seasonal patches come in and whatnot that kind of improves the robustness of clans because it feels like they have so much promise, but they just don't do quite as much as they potentially could right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all right, moving on to one of our last ones here. We have a double play from replay. So you could kind of say we took one of his emails and then we read it and then we replayed it, but kind of different because the next one's different from the last one. So it's not quite a In any case, the one that we have here, he says, "Oh hi." I think "Oh
Oh,
hi" might turn to be becoming the new sup
sup, fellas?
fellas.
Oh, hi. Yeah. Anyone that is in TeamSpeak, which I was in TeamSpeak this week, but like no one else was. So throwing it out there,
Get
throwing
on
it
the
out
team
there.
speaks. Nineball is waiting for you.
Mm-hmm.
He cried a little bit. He told me.
I did.
Um,
I really did. Someone wanted to talk to me.
so Replay throws in an idea about weekly things that could potentially come into D3, some sort of weekly event. He's referencing Hearthstone, which he does play. He's an active Hearthstone player. And he really likes the tavern brawls. And if you're not familiar with it, Hearthstone each week introduces something to the game that like changes all the rules. It's like House, like breaks all the rules. Um, and really like creates a wacky spin on kind of some of the known mechanics of the game, or like gives you the opportunity to build decks that normally just wouldn't function within like the regular goings-ons of
Mm-hmm.
Hearthstone. So it's kind of cool to reimagine some of the things that they could do if they didn't have to think about the game as a balanced
Yeah.
thingamajig. And so he wants to put a spin on that idea for Diablo. So he was thinking like, what if you have a Blizzard created character that would have some sort of objectives tied to it each week. So Blizzard kind of puts together the gear, the skill set, and one of the examples that he uses is like you just have to clear a GR40 with that character that Blizzard has put together, and it could get more complex from there. It could be clear an act in a certain amount of time with that character. But the thing is, it would be locked in, so it kind of have like the GR rules on it, where you can't change gear, you can't change skills.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of the challenge there is maybe it's a class you're completely unfamiliar with, maybe it's a spec you just never ever would have tried, but someone at the Blizzard side of things has tested this thing out. It's like, man, this would be fun if you were trying to accomplish this with this. So they just throw it out there as a challenge, and the way that it would affect you is that you would do it for some sort of reward that would go back into your normal account. He didn't mention if it would go to like seasonal, if you're playing seasonal or not. I guess that would be something to have figured out, but it could be interesting just because it would be like especially like in the middle of the season like we are now, for instance, it'd be a complete break from what you're kind of used to if you're just always Hoda smashing things or always pulling things as a healing monk or whatever. Now you're on a wizard arconing for the first time ever, and you have to figure out how this thing works and what
Yeah.
you're trying to accomplish.
What do I do with these things?
There's these
Uh,
buttons in front of me. What do I press?
yeah. Um, I kind of like that, and one of the first things that I thought of was when I was reading this was the cursed realms.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
The
have
data
like the
mine
different,
stuff.
yeah, where it wouldn't even so much be like a pre-made character that it would go through and like set that you can't use skills, and your gear doesn't matter, so it has like just kind of, or you would still have access to skills, but you wouldn't have any gear, and it would be kind of like you might have to use like movement skills or defensive skills or certain other ones or different types of damage in order to do things, or even say that you have something like a baseline, like a greater rift 40 or a greater rift 50 that you could enter, and it would have like a different type of rules every week, or it might even be like you could go through and enter in this one which is like 10 higher than whatever it is that you last did, but now you are Molten, Arcane, Waller. So that way, you're going through, and every time that you walk up, the arcane beams are just going and popping out of you periodically, and you're dropping poison and fire wherever it is that you go. Um,
God, that sounds
when
great.
you're into a rift, just something fun or funny that you could do, and like every week it'll just be in like Whimsyshire. Um,
Of course.
just to throw it out there and show this is just pure silliness, type thing, just for something different to have fun, and you can like throw something at it, and either you could make something big out of it, like some giant massive ass grind, or just like a fun little thing, like I said, like a Greater Rift 50 to complete, and you get some sort of like bonus blood shards for completing it once every week.
I'd be down for it, you know? It's
Hmm.
it's again, it's just kind of the more things that we have to do, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, just the more avenues that you have at in game, the better off you'll be, because there's more to keep you occupied.
That's right. And you know, like it could even be the thing too where like the more serious gamers like maybe they try it, maybe they ignore it because they can potentially just be more efficient doing what they normally do.
Hmm.
But it at the same time might just offer them the break that they need from their constant grind, and it could just, it brings the fun back. Isn't the
Yeah,
whole point to have fun?
yeah, because I mean that's essentially what it does in Hearthstone. Sure, you can go through and complete daily quests with it, but it rewards you a single card pack a week for doing a single win, and it's like the original card pack. So it's not even like it's going to be the set that most people that have been playing the game for a while will have the most cards of. Um,
Hmm.
if they haven't even already completed it already, but it's fun. You get to take a break, and it's different things to challenge you with how you make your deck when certain modes come in and such. Yeah, and to kind of wrap things up here for the community section, we have another email from Replay that just wants to go through. He sent in an ancient lion's claw, which we'll be showcasing here in items of the week shortly, but also just some topics to talk about, such as the open letter from the community that we already discussed. There was some about a farming guide for Greater Rift 65, and then just like the hardcore community's opinion on the current meta, which are all great topics. Don't have quite the chance to talk about them here tonight. But he also did just want to say that he's really been enjoying playing the monk this season. He's done Sun Wuko, he's done Static Charge, he's done the Ulianas, and it's just he has this nice, great aspect that he can rotate through all these different play styles and play. So great, and he is hyped for Star Wars. Can't wait. So am I. So is everyone here.
Hype is
Um,
real.
it is. It really is. And from there, are you ready for some items?
Da-na-na-na-na-na, items of the week.
We I was just about to say Steven. It was like not Steven and I. Chris and I were always talking about actually doing like some sort of uh like splash screen or something as like an intro to like the items of the week as going into it.
I like that.
Might be something for the future.
Yeah. Little pet project.
Yeah. So our first item comes in. This one is from longtime listener Blue Right. He sent in this Immortal King's Tribal Binding. This one rolled with 550 strength. Sorry. Um, 635 vitality, 124 all resist. Has re-rolled it for the gain 1,207 life per fury spent. Also came with the bonuses of 11 maximum fury and monster kills grant 234 XP.
So, I was analyzing this item this morning and I was thinking to myself, like, the standard roll here would be a 15% life because you usually just go pure defense on your belt.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was thinking about it, I was thinking also about the fact that I lost all my really good Gavels of Judgment that had life per fury spent on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh yeah, you can actually get life per fury spent on your belt since it's a mighty belt in the IK set. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're missing life per some sort of like life sustain stat in your gear, where normally you would probably get in your weapon, the belt is not a bad second option. So this is kind of cool.
Yeah, and because that one is, it's life versus life gain, so it's one of those, say like, the two sides to the same coin. It's
Hmm.
not like it's actual like it's not damage reduction like armor or all resist that you're gaining. It's just it's life and life gen are like the same exact thing. They accomplish the same.
Indeed.
Next item is from Replay. That, like I mentioned, is an ancient Lion's Claw. This one is 2,794 DPS, rolled with 869 Dexterity, 898 Vitality, and was re-rolled for reduces cooldown of all skills by 10%. The legendary bonus of your seven-sided strike performs 7 additional strikes, 10,000 life after each kill, and a Ronald McDonald's for a socket.
I also like that when you hold down the control so you can like see the mins and the max, the
It's
legendary power lets you know, by the way, 7.
7. Yeah. It's like it normally doesn't do that for non-variable numbers, but for this particular item, just so you're aware, 7.
7.
Mhm.
I love it. But yeah,
Uh,
this is a beautiful item. I know many monks were drooling and a little bit jealous because that's exactly what you want out of your Lion's Claw. That cooldown reduction. It's
mhm.
big for that Juliana set.
Oh, our next item comes in from Nevik, who's longtime listener. He's here in chat with us and also host of the Shattered Soulstone podcast. He tweeted this one at us: the Gavel of Judgment, ancient Gavel of Judgment. I should correct myself.
Mm-hmm.
This one clocks in at 3,759 DPS, 1,350 strength, 1,400 vitality, increases the Hammer of the Ancients damage by 39%, 21 maximum fury, and it returns 24 fury if it hits 3 or fewer enemies with a socket, all thrown in there. But he's not rerolled anything yet.
Mm-hmm. So that socket should go to 10% damage, I would assume.
Yep.
But
And
what's even funnier, you're
it
probably going to
is,
talk about this.
yeah, as he's saying in chat right now, rest in peace, that gavel. It is no more.
Whoops.
Just in case you thought you would never see it again, Nevik. Surprise? Aren't
Oh, rub that salt in the wound. That's what you get for making fun of
aren't
Crusaders, bro.
aren't you thankful
Yeah.
that you got to see it again?
How taste your salt, Nephilim.
Yep. Uh oh, that's a tiny image. Let's blow this one up just a little bit there, so everyone can go through and see this one. This one is an ancient Suwong Diviner. This one has the 10% bonus damage, 1,454 intelligence, reduces the cooldown of all skills by 8%, increases acid cloud damage by 95%, 14,000 life after each kill, and of course the secondary bonus of acid cloud gains the effect of the Lob Blob Bomb rune.
Can I
Uh,
say that that always reminds me of the Arrested Development Bob Law's Lob blog thing?
yes, that is good. You can say that. I will allow it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So tell me more about this item.
So this item right here, obviously it has not yet been touched, so it doesn't have Ramaladni's on there yet for the socket. I would probably return the reduced cooldown of all skills into Vitality just for for some survivability.
Hmm.
Because if you're going this build, you don't really need reduces cooldowns of all skills too much. You can kind of get away with it through like if you have just the 10% through Paragon points, or if you can get it on another item like shoulders or such, it equates out to about the same.
Gotcha.
You only
But
need like
not
a single item with cooldown reduction, if anything.
so last place you want it's on your weapon then.
Yeah, yeah. You want the for here is you just want that survivability. I haven't really played around too much and seen what like kind of like the high end stuff. Maybe life per hit, but I don't think that that's as useful. Um,
I'm I'm living on
like
your word there.
yeah, in this particular instance. But I definitely, for just me personally, I would go for Vitality, rerolling the reduced cooldown into Vitality on that one. And that does in fact bring us over to the end.
Wow, man, these just like I remembered,
Hmm
2 hours flies.
It does. I mean, what was it? We were, I think we were still on the topic of our first news item, like an hour into the show.
Them boys can talk. Tell
Oh,
you what.
yes. Yes, we can. Although a lot of the beginning, I think like the first 20 minutes or something, it was spent just, catching up, talking about real life, you being back on the show, and then watching everybody in chat, flip their shit that you were back on.
Oh my god. This
Yeah.
is not one of Bilal's illusions
Mm-hmm. It is
or
not.
lies.
Or is it?
Diablo 4 spoilers.
Uh-huh. Dun dun dun.
Oh boy.
Uh, so, there we go. That brings us to the end. Though I do have to get a new outro screen because the current one will only say 9 ball.
Party of one. That's how
Yeah,
you started, that's how you end.
yeah. Well, it started with Archon. Well, I
True.
guess
Well,
you,
I
I
guess
guess
I
if you
just
talk
I
if you talk about just this episode, yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
true. But now that we're over here at the end of the show, we haven't gotten any new reviews this week, but we do always appreciate it if you have the time, go through, drop us a 5-star review over on iTunes. It really does help. The more positive reviews we have, the more we'll be seen when people do just Diablo or gaming related searches to help us go through and grow our community. Speaking of our community outside of the show, you can always reach us on Twitter at the WM Workshop. You can also send us your items, your feedback, anything else that you'd like to go through and chat about to our email. It is westmarchworkshop at blizzpro.com. While you're there, go ahead and check out diablo.blizzpro.com to go through and catch up on all the Diablo news from writers such as Hot Streak, 3 Days. Myself occasionally, Lala actually just went through and joined our team, so you can go through and check out some articles that will be coming from her.
Oh
Um,
hey, that's cool.
yeah, you can find us in game at the Blizz Pro clan. If you don't want to leave your current clan, you can always jump in and chat with us at the Westmarch Workshop community. You can also go through and find us occasionally on TeamSpeak. We always seem to miss each other with odd hours. I was on during the afternoon yesterday and couldn't find anybody, and then late at night there's no one on, and some other people have been complaining about the same thing. We'd like to try and build that up to be as popular as we had with the raid call server. So go ahead, jump in. If we're not there, someone else might be to go and chat and set up games with. You can find that at blizzpro.typefrag.com at port 6250. No passwords needed, of course.
Yep.
And of course, you can find the show itself live Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific at twitch.tv/BlizzPro. While you're there, click the follow button. Come check out the rest of the shows that we offer. If you're a fan of other Blizzard games, you might want to go through, check us out. On Sundays, we have the Well Met podcast with Eldorian and crew, talk about Hearthstone. Monday nights, as we mentioned earlier in the show, Twiz, Archon, Reb, and Stutter are all there to goes and talks about general news involving the entire Blizzard community. They cover all the games under that one roof. Tuesday night, Twiz returns again with the Heroes Power Hour, so you can go through, check him, Eldorian, DJ Tyrant, Balrog fan, sometimes myself when I get a Tuesday off. We go discuss and play Heroes of the Storm. Already covered us on Wednesday, and starting this week, you can already download episode 0 on iTunes right now. We will be starting a new podcast covering Overwatch with the upcoming beta that's slated to come out on the 27th. And so you can go through, check them out. They're called The Payload. They will be Thursdays at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, right here on this channel. So go through and check them out, see what they're going to be going and doing. And of course, last but not least, you can follow us individually. You can find myself on Twitter at 9ballgamer. Leviathan here is at SAStewart111. And you can also follow him and his streams periodically throughout the week at twitch.tv/Leviathan111. And do you have anything else to add on there, good sir?
Man, you're like a rap god there. Just like Eminem. It's da 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 da. I love it. All that was all off the top, guys. Not practiced, not rehearsed.
I do not have that sitting in the show notes staring at me right now, so I know how to go and do it.
What show
Not at
notes?
all.
But no, man, I have no significant words, just I missed you, and I'm glad I'm back. I'm glad we can do this thing where we chat with each other and other people listen in. It's great. I love the voyeuristic feel. And
Getting the band back together.
that's right, man. So I'm just looking forward to more shows, more hanging out and BlizzCon in a few weeks. That's what I'm super excited about right now.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully, building things back up in game.
Yeah. Oh, as I mentioned kind of earlier in the show, I meant to include this. So I did screw up the outro a little bit here. So just want to throw it out. There might not be a show next week, October 28th, depending upon what my schedule looks like. And there probably will not be a live show on Twitch during the week of BlizzCon, though Leviathan and I might still go through and push out something just for YouTube or audio only. But just keep an eye out for that. And also, as I said, my schedule might also. Oh, excuse me, might also not allow me to do a show on the 11th. So while there might not be a live show for the next 3 weeks, there will definitely be something up on YouTube in iTunes for the BlizzCon itself. So keep an eye out for that, and we will let you know via Twitter about the actual schedule for the live shows.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. And with that, everybody, good night.
Guten Nacht.
How's your dog?